All right, welcome back. Just gotta apologize in advance. I'm extremely tired, so if I don't do this too well, please bear with me. In our first two shiurim, we laid out a critical hashkafic foundation for the Seder night. We explored how to deliver the Haggadah, and we analyzed the seeming paradox, of our freedom, how Yetzias Mitzrayim was actually the birth of a nation, shifting from cruel servitude from under Paroi to a real elevated freedom of purposeful living and to being an evidence of the Bari Olam. Tonight we're going to discuss some actual mechanics of the Leila Seder. First thing we need to establish is that the Seder is not only a history lesson, which we discussed a little before. We're not just sitting around nostalgically remembering something that happened thousands of years ago. The obligation of the night is B'chol Dor V'Dor Chayiv Adam Liris Asmak Iluhu Yotzim Mitzrayim. Every single generation, person is obligated to see himself as he actively went out of Egypt. This is the main purpose of the night, and this is what we're going to try to help establish. The Ohr HaChaim points out on pasuk in Bamidbar Perik Chav Gimel pasuk Chav Beis that the Torah says Al Motziyim Mitzrayim. Hashem is taking them out of Egypt. If you notice the dikduk, it doesn't say he took them out past tense. It's written in present tense. The Ohr HaChaim explains that this is because redemption is an ongoing act of reality. We're supposed to feel that we're actively going out of Mitzrayim right now. But how do we make this feeling real? Like, how do we manufacture this? How do we make an event that happened 1,000 years ago feel like it's happening tonight? Or sorry, not tonight. The Leila Seder. So all the events of the night are going to help us. The Kiddush, Haggadah, Makim Suda, the meal, the story, the physical mitzvahs are all going to be intertwined. It's all going to be a building built by brick by brick to help us get to that feeling that we need to feel with the mitzvah of the night. We lean to the side when we do the arba kaises and other stuff to feel chayris. We maror, for shibud, and matzah is a combination of which I hope to elaborate further in a further video. Is partially chayris and partially shibud. Before we even start Magid to tell a story, Chazal instituted a series of shinuyim, specific changes designed to disrupt our expectations and to rouse attention of the children. If you think about a sequence, like first we make Kiddush, normally all like every Shabbos or Yontiv, what we do next is we wash our hands and for bread and make a mitzi and have the Suda. But tonight we do orchat, so we wash our hands but we don't eat any bread. Instead, we go to karpas. We eat a vegetable course. I guess you could call it a course, and we dip it. So in salt water, it's all quite interesting. But tonight, the Shla and the Bach point out in Masechet Pesachim that dipping the food is a sign of royalty. That's how kings eat. We're starting the night by declaring that we're b'nei melachim. That's the first thing we're declaring, because we're the children of Melech Olam, and it's so. Actually, I think I'm gonna skip this part. Also, we hand out nuts and treats and other stuff to arouse the kids and ask them for them to be asking why this night is different. And then what do we do right after we dip? We dip the vegetable. After we say we're b'nei melachim, we do yachatz. We take the middle matzah, we snap it in half. We put half back in the ka'ara, and we hide the other half for afikomen. I think first we say halachmania, but breaking this bread is the ultimate symbol of lachmani. The bread is a person never knows. A poor person never knows where his next meal is coming from, so he can never eat a whole loaf. He always breaks it and saves the other half for later. We're intentionally doing everything possible to arouse attention of the children for the next stage, or to get to the stage of manashtana. But before we actually get to manashtana, we hold up the broken piece of matzah and we declare halach ma'aya. And right here we hit like the philosophical question. This declaration was instituted after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. We're sitting here the night of the Seder at a beautiful table, or all the finery is out. We're all wearing white, but we're still in Gullus. How can we sit like elevated royalty when our current reality is Gullus? Isn't this seemingly inappropriate? Yes, we're eating bread of poverty. Yes, we're still in Gullus, but the answer is, but we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching us for every single second, just like we say every night in the bracha of Emes B'Emunah in Ma'ariv, Hapidenu Miyam Malachim. He redeems us from the hands of Malachim. This is also present tense. He's actively saving us right now. This Mach tells us something very interesting. He says that when a person goes up to the Olam Haba after 120 years, or goes up to Shmai, the din goes up for din, after 100. Primary question they ask him is Yeshua. Did you wait the salvation? This Mach explains that based on this very first of the Seder Dibras, and that Mach says that just as you have absolute obligation to believe that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim in the past, you have an exact equal obligation to believe that He will do it again. Not only that, but Asal Har Boys, He will multiply His miracles and completely redeem us in the future. And the Chavetz Chaim writes in a Sefer in Machane Yisrael that this doesn't only mean the ultimate Yeshua when Mashiach comes. It means having CPS Yeshua in everyday life. For any personal tzara and difficulty or pain you're going through, you're supposed to feel that Hashem is there for you. This completely changes our psychology. If you would think a person who would be in Gullus and under the thumb of foreign powers would be hopeless and they'll close themselves to us, and would isolate themselves, but not us, right? Our current reality of Gullus does not diminish our simcha at all. We're living because we live with the reality of ani b'chas b'tachli yoga libi b'yeshua secha. That we're constantly we rely on Hashem's chesed and we're yearning for His Yeshua. We're confident that Hashem is going to save us, so we throw our doors open in Halach Mayin, right? We invite our guests. Kol dechsim yesef v'yechol. Let all the hungry come and eat. We look at our broken bread. We look at our broken world, and we confidently declare, "L'shana haba b'ar Yisrael." That's living ani b'chas b'tach liyoga libi b'shuasecha. So we deliberately re-experience the salvation of Yetzias Mitzrayim of the past and draw on our betachon and strength we need to survive for the rest of the year. And that profound display of faith leads us right into the Manashtana. Right, the children look around at everything that's going on, the paradox we're trying to create for them, and the differences, and they ask the four questions that we all know. Just to add to the question a little bit to drive us home, why are we going back and focusing so much on Gnus and Avdos? Like, if you went through a trauma and you're out of the trauma, like, you don't necessarily want to constantly go back to it and relive it. To answer that, we find the rule in the Mishnah in Pesachim, Maskal B'Nus U'Mesayim B'Shvach. But what exactly is Gnus? The Gemara brings Machlokes Rav Shmuel. According to Shmuel, the Gnus is a physical slavery, so we start with Avodah Me'inu, and we appreciate the creation of Klal Yisrael by starting with how Hashem pulled us out of the depths of physical subservience. But according to Rav, the Gnus is spiritual. He says we must start with Mitchila Oivdei Avodah Zara. Rav tells us it's not enough to start from Mitzrayim. To truly appreciate our creation, you have to go back to the roots of Avram Avinu, which we discussed yesterday, and appreciate that Hashem chose us spiritually when the entire world was lost in Avodah Zara. And lahalacha, we paskin like both of them. We do Avodah Me'inu and then Mitchila Oivdei Avodah Zara in our Haggadah. So to show that Hashem redeemed us both physically and spiritually. This leads us to the next logical question. The Haggadah says, "Afilu kulanu chachamim," even for all wise, all understanding, all deeply learned in the Torah, we still have the mitzvah to tell the story of Yitzchak. But why? If we are already on such a high spiritual level, why do we have to go back to the beginning? So to explain this, we'll give a little bit of a mashal. A friend goes up. Imagine someone is celebrating his birthday, right? And a person goes up to him and says, "Why are you celebrating the day you were born? Like you couldn't walk, you couldn't talk, you couldn't eat. Really, I mean, eat real food. You couldn't do anything. Well, you couldn't by yourself. Wouldn't it make more sense, like, to celebrate the day you finished Shas, the day you got your degree, or any real accomplishment? Like, why is the day you were born an accomplishment?" And the answer is, obvious, that you're not celebrating your birthday because you accomplished anything that day. You're celebrating is because that's the day you were created. Everything you accomplish after stems is from that day. It's a continuation from that moment. The day of creation is the moment that made everything else possible. So it's the same thing for Klal Yisrael. We don't just celebrate Har Sinai. We celebrate Yetzias Mitzrayim because that's the day we were created as a nation. Everything else, the Torah, the mitzvahs, is all built upon that very first moment. Without creating us of a nation, we don't have the things that come, the accomplishments after. And this is actually proven beautifully by the next paragraph in the Haggadah, of the Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Shehayu Mesubim b'nei Brak. These five massive Torah scholars stayed up the entire night discussing Yetzias Mitzrayim. But if you look closely at who they were, you realize something mind-blowing. Rabbi Elazar was a Kohen, Rabbi Yeshua was a Kohen, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was a Levi, Rabbi Tarfon was a Kohen, and Rabbi Akiva was a Ger. So, as we know, the Kohanim Leviim were not enslaved in Mitzrayim. They were exempt from hard labor, and descendants of Gerim certainly weren't there. So technically, none of these five Rabbanim had ancestors who were crushed by the physical avdus. And yet, they stayed up all night doing the mitzvah of Sipur, because the creation of the nation applies to them just as much. The spiritual birth of Jewish people belongs to every single one of us. This naturally brings us to the next section of the Haggadah, which is Barak HaMalchim Barak Hu, and the introduction of the Rabbanim, 4 sons, which the Torah recognizes as the heavy foundational message of our creation needs to be transmitted to every single generation. It goes out of its way to give us 4 different methods to reach 4 different types of children in Klal Yisrael. In the next video, we're going to break down the profound psychology behind the Rabbanim and how to use the tools at our own tables. Have a great night.